He turned to look at me, and his eyes are silver. Inside, pictures flicker in an organic projector, a war happening and about to happen, in shadows and exploding lights. I see vultures around his head, raptors, and snapped out. His body lay slumped over the wheel. I leapt onto him without thought. Pushing his torso back, I slid up into his lap and gripped the wheel, turning it sharply to avoid a tree. Shoving my legs down between his, I jammed my foot on the accelerator over his shoe. Still, we'd slowed down, enough that the trucker miscalculated. I drove us up through a narrow gap between two trees as he hit the brakes. Managing to just get in behind him, I headed for the right lane, swerving on asphalt as we abruptly accelerated out over the lawn, when Reddick jerked beneath me. He grabbed the wheel over my hands as if to steady himself. Remembering what he said about pain, I dug my nails into the skin of his knuckles. "Wake up! Reddick!" His eyes clicked into focus. He looked at me briefly, then turned away, coughing. Blood speckled the glass of the driver's side window. He wiped his mouth, but when I started to climb out of his lap, he grabbed my wrist. "I need you to drive," he said. He was already moving out from behind the wheel. Perched on the edge of the seat to compensate for his long legs, I fumbled for the knob to move the chair, then forgot it when a booming sound vibrated the insides of the car. I ducked as I felt nicks from more shards of glass, glancing at the ragged hole punched through the rearview window. The trucker accelerated from a few lanes over, leaning over his cab. Reddick opened the black gym bag and pulled out a shotgun that looked like law enforcement issue. He dug around in the bag for a box of shells. Cracking the cardboard open one-handed, he dumped a pile on his lap, began loading the Remington 870 with deft fingers. He paused, gave me a quizzical look. "How do you know that?" he said. "About the gun." I looked at him, blank, then at the gun. "Old boyfriend." When Reddick went back to loading, I said, "What are you going to do? You can't just shoot them all." He continued loading the gun, not answering at first. He said, voice flat, "You have the right to lodge a formal complaint regarding my methods with the council once we arrive. They will hear you and with a great deal of sympathy, I assure you. But reminding me of the damage I'm doing to my soul won't help either of us right now, Allie." I stared at him uncomprehendingly, saw no hint of sarcasm. When he seemed to be expecting a response, I could only nod. "Okay, sure." "Thank you." He chambered the first shell with a smooth jerk of his hand and leaned out the window. I watched in the mirror as he aimed at the truck, firing as soon as he leveled the barrel. The truck swerved and his shot went wide. Reddick aimed again. He hit the grill and it swerved behind another 18-wheeler. Reddick sat back, eyes locked on the mirrors. I heard a bleep of loudspeaker and turned, saw a Washington State police car pull up alongside us. Inside, a red-faced officer leaned back stiffly in his seat, driving and glaring at us, while his partner aimed a shotgun at Reddick. "Pull over!" the driver yelled. "Right now!" I caught the barest whisper of Reddick's thoughts. "We are not the criminals. It is them. Help us." The cop driving glanced at his partner. Confusion softened their faces. "We are in danger. Protect us, please." The officer nodded to Reddick, indicating the highway ahead. He shouted, "Go on, we'll take care of this, sir." "Thank you, officer." The driver tapped the brakes, picking up the police radio mouthpiece and speaking into it as the car fell dramatically behind. I looked at Reddick, dumbfounded. "Go faster," he said. "They will do the same to us." I muttered something about free will, hammering my foot down on the gas. My fingers whitened as the scenery started to blur. He shrugged in answer to a question I hadn't asked. "I thought you would prefer that to my killing the driver." I followed the direction of his eyes through the rearview mirror, saw the vibrating reflection of the cop car slow beside the truck's cab just before I heard the same blare of loudspeaker and warning tap of siren. A second later, Reddick turned to me. "It's done. Faster, Allie." The Washington cop's siren blared into life. I already had the pedal down hard. Now I pressed it to the floor, felt my chest constrict as the GTX leapt forward. We were definitely past my comfort zone in terms of my ability to navigate at high speeds. I was on the verge of being out of control when I felt Reddick with me in the barrier, directing my hands. I resisted at first. "Let me. You will learn." Faintly, a grid appeared, a maze of bright lines that overlaid the scenery and cars. The grid showed how the drivers interacted with one another in the light of the barrier. I could almost see what each driver would do. Another blast hit the back of the car. My eyes snapped to focus as Reddick's line left mine. He leaned out the window, propping the stock against his shoulder and firing. The sound boomed inside the car, deafening. I saw the cop car swerve. The hood erupted in smoke after Reddick's third shot penetrating the engine block. The police car swerved again and rolled. I heard a squeal of tires, a sound like an explosion, but the crash sounds were rapidly receding. I swallowed back bile, trying to focus. "They seemed nice," I said, "like nice people." He didn't answer. A shot hit the back of the car with a loud clink and groan of metal. Revik leaned out, firing. His mind felt close to me now, so I stared at the windshield, digging my nails into my palms every time drowsiness tried to overtake me, hoping like hell I didn't kill us. I was so focused on these two things, in fact, staying awake and not crashing, that I barely noticed the second police car pull up alongside us. I glanced over in time to see the officer in the driver's seat reach for his sidearm. I sucked in a breath, ready to duck, but the man unholstered his weapon and held it out to Revik through the window, the handle pointed towards us. I worried Revik had told him to shoot himself, but the gun simply dropped from his fingers. It clattered to the road, bouncing behind us. "Watch the road," Revik snapped. "I am doing this. You drive." I turned back to the windshield, but his anger had allowed me to feel him again, at least in part. The gun was as far as he would get with that human. The Brooks had the cop's mind. The knowing reflected a bitterness that surprised me. Bastard's doing it on purpose, forcing me to kill as many of them as he can. When he looked at me, anger still hardened his features. Swallowing, I nodded, trying to let him see that I understood.